what is lower, middle, and upper class to you guys? I always try to leave you guys with some form of insight, and then I put my spin and I give my perspective of how you guys need to start looking at money a little bit differently. Because let's be clear, it always comes back to the money, and it always gets there from the hustle. It always comes back to the money, and it always gets there from the hustle. What do you consider lower, middle, and upper class? Let's deep dive into it. I got a video that I want to share with you guys, and then hopefully I can add some insight into your life. Hit a like for the YouTube algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications.
When I think of the upper class, I think of somebody that belongs to a country club. Perhaps they drive a luxury car, they go on these crazy ski vacations, or maybe they just have 5 therapists. But the truth is that with net worth, you actually don't need as much net worth as you think you might need to become what's called upper class. In today's video, we're gonna break down all the classes and their net worth and characteristics based on US Census data and a couple of research studies.
Now, the interesting thing about this conversation, though, is that when you talk to most people, they not having a conversation based off of net worth. Net worth, as much as it's a phrase that should be familiar and sealed into our brains, is something that we're deprogrammed from actually taking into consideration when we're talking about money, right? I had a guy one time that said, Anton, he may have a lot of stuff that may accumulate up to over $1 million, so he may be a millionaire that way, but I'm pretty sure he ain't no cash millionaire. The fuck is this? Cash Money Records? Do I look like fucking Birdman and Slim to you? What happened to that boy? What happened? Do I look like fucking Birdman to you? Do I look like the type of nigga that be walking around with a money phone on his ear? Dumb shit. Ignorant shit. Which basically told more about what it is that he is and where he's at in life and his understanding of financial resources more than it said about me. Neither here nor there. Most people are not having the conversations about net worth. They only have a conversation about how much money you can blow, how much cash you got, how much you're financing, what type of house you're living in. They don't talk about the difference between the equity that you have in a house, which is the amount that the house is worth versus how much you owe on it, right? That difference is calculated into your net worth. The credit card debt that you have, the student loans that you have. It doesn't matter if you make $180,000 a year, if you got $200,000 in student loans and the majority of what you're paying going to interest, right? Because that means that you're sitting at a deficit and your net worth is negative versus the amount of money that you make. It's not about how much money you make, it's about how much money you keep. Most people that are millionaires in the United States of America, they are not millionaires based off of how much cash they have. They're millionaires based off of how much money that they have in assets, their homes, right? Their home may be paid for, so that may be an asset because it appreciates, but then they have to pay the property taxes on it, which is one of the reasons why people like a David Porter have to sell his home, because he does not make enough money now that the writers and the actors are striking, because he can't sustain his lifestyle. And if he doesn't hurry up and sell his home, he's going to become even worse off, and his net worth is going to plummet because he can't maintain his lifestyle. So there's a lot of moving parts that go into this conversation that they don't want you to know about.
US Census actually gives us data on the quintiles of net worth. So what that basically means is quintiles are separated into every 20% of the population. So we have data on the bottom 20%, the 20th to 40th percentiles, the 40th to 60th percentiles, and so on. Let's start with the lowest 20%. So the median net worth in this category is $6,030 as of the most recent data in 2020, and that would put you in the poverty class. Now, $6,030 in net worth doesn't mean that you just have $6,030 in your checking account. Now,
let's break that number down really quickly. Let's really think about that and break that down really quickly, because he's talking about the lower class. The lowest 20% of people have a median net worth of $6,000. And that's the overwhelming majority of people. It's a larger group. And the higher, think of it like a pyramid. The higher you go, the less that's in that group. And the bottom half of people don't have $1,000 to their name if they had an emergency. They have a median net worth. Now remember, it's going to be a whole bunch of people at the bottom, a bunch of people in the middle, and the people at the top of what that is of the lowest 20% of people. Average median net worth. Net worth meaning how much money that you have positive versus the negative, the assets versus the liabilities, and what does that look like at the end of the day? You may have $100,000 in cash, and then you might have $94,000 in debt. That means that your median net worth is $6,000. Let's continue.
In net worth doesn't mean that you just have $6,030 in your checking account. Net worth is actually the calculation of your total assets, so everything that you own minus everything that you owe or your total liabilities. So for example, if you had $10,000 in your checking account, perhaps $40,000 in your retirement accounts, and you owned a house that was worth $500,000, your total assets in this case would be $550,000.
But owning the house worth $500,000 would mean that you don't have a mortgage on it, meaning that you own it free and clear, because then you'd have to add a different total to that, right? So if you own a house, or if you buying a house, or you have a mortgage on a house, or you did a HELOC, or you did a refinance, right? And that house is worth $500,000, but you only have $200,000 equity into it because you owe $300,000 on that house, then that means that your net worth would actually be $250,000. You get it now? So it's your assets minus your liabilities. That is what your net worth is. That's how people that have money calculate whether or not you're a millionaire. It's not about how much money you have in a bank. It's not about how much money you make on your job. It's about how much money you have in assets. Okay?
Assume you have two big liabilities, so you owe $300K on your mortgage as well as $100K in student loans. That means your total liabilities in this case are $400,000. So your total net worth in this case would be $550K in assets minus $400K in liabilities, so your total net worth is $150K. Net worth is a pretty good indicator of wealth in my opinion, because while you can have a large income, if you do spend a lot of that income, then you really don't have anything to show for it.
Which is the problem with most people within our culture, is that we're a consumer culture, we're a debtor nation, we're a debtor culture. And so, we finance everything. And in my opinion, I think that the biggest travesty about this is because it's not that people ain't getting to the bag. It's a lot of people making a lot of money. But most people have no understanding of how money works. They know how to acquire it. They don't know how to keep it. They don't know how to prevent themselves from having to give it over to the government. They finance their life away. They go and get a whole bunch of mortgages. They think that they can cash flow real estate. In reality, they one disaster away from losing every fucking thing, or they can't get no more tenants in there, or they bought it in a place and Airbnb-ing it out. Now that area is not fucking thriving anymore. Our ability to be able to hold on to wealth is going to be a part of our demise.
So in a way, net worth kind of accounts for spending behavior as well as discipline and financial habits, and I think it's a really good indicator of how wealthy somebody is. Now back to the lowest quintile here, the characteristics of this bucket in particular is that the average household income is between $25,000 to $27,000 per year. The census defines the poverty line in 2022 at $35,801 per year.
So for all of these people that keep telling me that you can raise a family on $40,000 a year, that means that you're just above the poverty line, and I'm not sure how you're doing it. Let's go ahead and move over into middle class, because that's the thing that we really want to talk about, the lower middle class, all right?
160. This is the beginning of the middle class, and this cohort is sometimes known.
Hold on, let me rewind that a little bit.
Their median net worth is $43,760.
So that's including everything that you have inside of your retirement, everything that you have in your 401k, everything that you have in your brokerage account, your savings account, your cars, your home that you in, so on and so forth.
The beginning of the middle class, and this cohort is sometimes known as what's called the lower middle class. The average income of a household in the lower middle class is right at $48,500 per year.
So remember, this is the average household income. This is not the total income. This is the average household income. Median net worth, $43,000 a year. Average median income of the household is $48,000.
And that's going to be slightly lower than the US median income of $70,784 per year. The lower middle class is typically made up of new graduates, blue-collar workers, such as factory workers and farmers, as well as newer immigrants that are still trying to find a footing in this new country. In terms of defining characteristics for the middle class, there are 6 signs that you might be in the middle class by the Middle Class Task Force, which is a government initiative founded in 2009. They define the middle class as having 6 financial aspirations. So number 1 would be home ownership.
I've never seen this, so I'm learning about what it is that the government has classified as middle class. So we're gonna learn about this today.
Number 2 is owning a car. college education, retirement security, healthcare coverage, and number 6 is the ability to take a family vacation.
So they define you as middle class because a lot of people like to use these terms. They define you as middle classes by you actually having a mortgage, a fucking crib. B, having a car. C, six. These are the 6 characteristics of the middle class, as defined by the government Middle Class Task Force in 2009. C, being a graduate. You notice how they got a black woman over there. Over there. Now they didn't say what kind of degree that you have to have or how much debt that you get as a result of it, but you are solidly middle class if you can get a degree. A retirement account, meaning that pension, 401k, don't matter if you work there for 30 years like the Yellow Corporation and they take that shit away. Healthcare coverage, which means that you're not on an Affordable Care Act or you're not dependent on Medicare, Medicaid in order to be able to survive. And what was the last
and
one?
number 6 is the
And be able to take a vacation every once in a while. Don't go over to Dubai cussing people out. You're going to get detained over there, all right?
ability to take a family vacation. So I find this really fascinating, which is the family vacation for the middle class has become a staple. It's the true embodiment of the fact that the middle class no longer are just focused on covering their necessities. It shows that the middle class is starting to have more discretionary income under their belt and they're choosing how to spend that money. So it's also here where people are starting to make decisions around spending based on their wants and not necessarily just their needs. This is also where stereotypes come in. Maybe you know somebody that's spending a ton of money on their transportation, like their car payment, perhaps their shopping habit, or maybe they just go and buy those squashmallow type thingies all the time. You know that these people make a decent income, but it's nothing lavish and they're spending a lot of it. This could be a sign that they are in the lower middle class. So really enjoy the
Okay, I'm going to fast forward it. I want to go to the solidly middle class.
newsletter straight to your inbox. The next quintile is what I just like to call the straight up middle class. You are literally smack dab in the middle of the entire distribution of the population. The median net worth to be in this class is $104,700.
I would say that most people do not have a median net worth of $100,000. I would say that most people do not have a median net worth of $100,000. Most people can't even come up with $1,000 in an emergency. Most people are in debt. Most people have credit card debt. Most people have student loan debt. That goes against what your net worth is. I do not believe that most people are solidly middle class, and we haven't even gotten to upper class yet.
Dollars, and the income of someone in the straight up middle class is very close to the US median household income of $70,000 to $71,000 a year. Usually this
Average median household income is $70,000 to $71,000 a year.
class is a mix of specialized blue collar workers or they're in the beginning stages of a white collar job. They might have jobs like being a nurse, truck drivers, massage therapists, office managers, and sales reps, so on and so forth. Now, 100K in net worth or more is nothing to sniff at, and a large reason as to why these people have over $100,000 in net worth is either that they've become really good at saving a portion of their income and
And they have a significant equity into their homes.
investing it, or sometimes it's just due to the fact that they are older. Most of the people that get to this level are already in their late 30s to early 40s by the
Now look at this. Under 35, the median wealth by household characteristics in 2020. Under 35 on average is about $22,000. 35 to 44 is $97,000. 45 to 54 is $166,000. Now, think about this for a second. If you have a net worth of $166,000 at 54 years of age, that means you have a little bit over 10 years to be able to acquire or accumulate enough wealth to be able to sustain you for the rest of your life. On average, they say that you need at least $2 million, at least by today's standards. Now, 10, 20 years from now, you may need significantly more than that because inflation is going to continue to bring the number up because the cost of living goes up over time, right? And so if you don't have $2.5, $3 million in net worth in which you're not primarily drawing the majority of your money from your principal, you're going to be shit out of luck.
the time they cross the $100,000 mark. So if you happen to be someone that is younger and you're making a really great income of over $70,000 a year, and you're wondering, man, why am I not at $100,000 in net worth? Well, sometimes the answer is just you haven't been in the game long enough. What is really cool here is that if you have a
And your spending habits.
modest income of say $70,000 or $75,000 a year, that would typically put you in the straight up middle class, but you can actually become a lot wealthier than that if you just have a long enough time horizon and you invest regularly.
So let's go into upper class. We're going to skip around a little bit. All right.
65, you're going to have a net worth of over $335,000 by the time you're 65.
Oh, let me back that
which
up.
will actually put you well into the upper. Same example, it shows that if you're able to be smart with your money, you can still amass quite a large fortune. Even if you're able to just save $100 a month from the time that you're age 25 to
Now, listen, if you're able to save $100 a month, now we know that most people is not even stacking $100 a month, let alone investing $100 a month. But let's continue.
65, you're going to have a net worth of over $335,000 by the time you're 65, which will
All you got to do is save $100 a month and then get an 8% interest rate, which is nothing to sneeze at. That's very difficult to do. And then as your money compound over a period of time, your net worth should be at over $335,000. Most people don't start early enough. A lot of people feel like they got to live and they got to do what they want to do. I want to take vacations. I'm going to go into debt. And then they start to try to figure it out by the time that they're 40.
will actually put you well into the upper middle class. Now, speaking of the upper middle class, the median net worth of this class is $201,800. This
Median net worth of the upper middle class. Now, notice how they didn't say poor, just above poor, average, just slightly above average. They said lower middle class, upper middle class. Median net worth, $200,000.
net worth will put you in the top 40% of households in America, and the income at this level is typically between $100,000 to $150,000 in household income per year. The data even suggests that even if you don't make between $100,000 to $150,000 per year, that you can still become what's considered upper middle class, especially by the time you're the age of 55, where the median net worth of someone at the age of 55 is $230,900. However,
now let me look at upper class. This is the thing that I want to see now.
And that's just because of wealth creation.
so if you're in the top quintile or the top 20% of the United
Now, these are the people that are in the top 20% of everybody. So if you are in the upper class, you are now in the top 20% of everybody, okay?
States, the median net worth here is $608,900.
How many people have a net worth that's above $600,000? You are in the top 20% of people in the United States of America and the world, and in the world, you're actually a little bit higher. But you are in the top 20% of people in the United States of America if you have a net worth above $600,000. That means that you are technically upper class. Now, in my opinion, upper class having a net worth is nothing to sneeze at of over $500,000. However, it's not enough. It's not enough. For the bag chasers, shout out to my Patreon members, it's not enough. And the reason that it's not enough is because you don't just want to be able to survive for the rest of your life. You want to thrive. And in order to thrive, you need assets throwing off money that also support your lifestyle while continuing to increase your net worth. You don't want to just have enough money to be able to survive for the rest of your life and hope that you don't run out of money. You want to have the type of money that generate revenue and actually support your lifestyle while also increasing your net worth, and it's throwing off that type of revenue, all right?
If you have that net worth, then you are considered upper class. Now, the median household income of this group some 7 years ago was $187,000.
Now, that was 7 years ago.
According to a Pew Research study, but adjusted for inflation these days, that number is probably closer to 237.
From 180 to 237 within a 7-year time frame, and that's adjusting for inflation.
$1,000 a year. According to that same study, a large share of upper class individuals, they usually live on the East Coast. For example, places like Boston, New York, and
What?
Cambridge,
They not
where
on the West
there's
Coast?
a lot of financial and tech around, as well as the West Coast work in tech, and all the salaries in tech are quite high. But the upper class can also include some non-tech workers, so there are plenty of high-paying jobs that aren't in tech. For example, if you're a cardiologist, a psychiatrist, a dentist, maybe you're a senior level in the finance field by asset type in 2020.
All right. Composition of wealth asset types in 2020 says retirement accounts account for more than a third at 36.2%. Equity in your home. So now you already at literally 2/3 of what it is that everything is accounted for, right? 36%, 0.2, you carry over to 0.8, that's down there at the bottom. Let's just say 37%. Then you throw in the 7 from the 27, right? That's 44. And then you add the 2, that's 64. So you almost at 66%. The majority of people's wealth is largely built into A, the equity in their home, and then B, their retirement accounts. It has nothing to do with cash. Let me say it one more time. At 64%, based off of this U.S. Census Bureau 2021 survey of income and program participation, they're saying that 64%, which is almost two thirds, 64% of your net worth is based off of what it is that you have in your retirement account and the equity that you have in your home. Another 11%. That puts you at 75%. Now you're talking about 3/4 is the stocks and the mutual funds, asset at financial institutions, assets and other holdings, rental properties, business assets, other real estate. I don't see nothing in there that say cash. I don't see nothing in there that say cash, right? Then you got vehicles, which we all know that that's a depreciating asset. Bonds, student loans at that point is kicking your ass. Credit card and store bills, medical debts, and other unsecured debts. Then take away from your net worth. But basically, what this is saying, and the reason why I wanted to illustrate this for you guys, and I always try to leave you guys with something positive that hopefully help you look at money a little bit differently, is because your net worth is not going to be based off of how much you have on a money phone or the type of clothes that you buy or how it is that other people view you. It's not going to be based off of your computer equipment or whether or not you got the latest iPhone. I know they got an event coming up. Lamborghini is coming out with a new event 2 days from now. It's not based off of any of that. Your success is largely going to be determined by how much value that you have within these institutions. Your retirement account, which compound and it grows over time, which is one of the reasons why it accumulated over 33% or a third of all of your monies, right? How much equity that you have in your home, but most people don't understand that the true cost of home ownership is much more expensive than what it is that we're calculating it to be, or the mortgage that we pay, the stocks you own, the brokerage account, including the cash that you have, and then other assets that hopefully has appreciated over time. The goal for you is to acquire the assets and then be able to keep the revenue instead of giving the revenue over into the finance company, the credit card company, the mortgage company more than you have to, student loans, and all of this other shit, right? I was I was riding in a car yesterday, and one of the things that I was saying, and I'm gonna read the super chat shortly. One of the things that I was saying, and I was having a conversation with my daughter. We was in a cab on the way back to the hotel, and she was telling me how much she loved Taekwondo and all of this stuff, and we was talking about college. And she said, "Dad, do I gotta go to college?" I said, "Absolutely." She said, "What if I just wanted to do Taekwondo?" So she's throwing out all of these hypotheticals. I said, "Well, then you just gonna have to learn how to do both, right?" I said, "But the good thing about it is that you'll never know what it feels like to have to fill out a FAFSA." She said, "What's a FAFSA?" She said, "What is a FAFSA?" She didn't even know how to pronounce it. That's the thing that they gave to all of the students when we was graduating in school. And I went to one of the top schools in Detroit. They was talking about, when you're going to apply to college, when you're going to do your FAFSA. Do you got to get your parents to sign it? I don't know if you're going to be able to qualify because your parents make slightly too much money, but they don't have enough money to be able to pay for you to go to college. My daughter will never know what it feels like to have to fill out a fucking FAFSA. She will never know. Can she get a grant? Can she get scholarships? Absolutely. But she will never know what it feels like to have to fill out a fucking FAFSA. Those are our goals. Those are the things that we ultimately want to work towards. Fuck the money phone. Fuck the cars. All of that stuff is extra. You don't start spending money until you secure your family. You don't start spending money until you start to build assets. You don't start spending money. And that's why I keep telling y'all, and I live my life like an open book. I've done it. I've actually grinded for it. I've put myself in a position to where we now can fly all across the motherfucking globe and spend $30,000 on plane tickets because our futures are secure, right? When we join in the Patreon and I'm breaking down all of the money that I'm spending, even now I'm still building rental properties from the ground up. We don't take any financing. We don't go through the banks. We don't do none of that shit. Right? When I'm breaking this stuff down inside of the Patreon, what I'm trying to get you to do is not only understand the game, but also change your mindset of what you think money looks like, what you think wealth is supposed to be, what our cultural norms are, right? It's not about the watch that you wear, unless it's a watch that appreciates over time and it holds its value, right? It's not about the car that you drive, unless you've secured enough wealth to where your assets then can pay for your lifestyle. It's not about any of that shit. It's about not being beholden to what other people think about you, A, and also being beholden to what the federal government is saying that you have to do in order to qualify to even be there in the first place. You qualify because I've done the work and I've put in the work in order for you to be able to do so. That's why you qualify. You're not going to have to make a determination of whether or not you want to go to college based off of whether it's affordable or not. You're going to be there and you're going to do what the fuck I told you to do. And you're going to pick a specific program that I want you to go into because this is what the requirements are based off of the hard work that I put into it. You owe me. You owe me. You owe me success. You owe me your grind. You owe me your hustle. Your minimum expectation is the standards that we set in this household, and that's been passed on from generation to generation. And we only go up in our standards. We don't lower our standards based off of what society is doing. That's generational wealth. When you can every generation up the standard because you know that the gap between those that have and those that don't is going to just widen. When you up in the standard instead of lowering the standard based off of what society standards are, that's what you know what generational wealth is going to be. Because when you have a different mindset, money is always going to be plentiful. Money is always easy to get. You'll always be able to get that bag. But if you don't have the mindset and you don't instill the discipline, because kids and the people that follow you and the people that's looking at you, they paying attention to what you do, not necessarily what you say or what you say that you're going to display. None of that shit mean anything. The only thing that matters is what you implement and then what it is that you pass down. Because if you motherfuckers is going to do a fish fry after your mama or your papa die, then that's a problem.